Good to see you
I'm in
guys,
my
by the way.
upstairs office today, so
What's that?
I'm
Is
in a
that
different
where you-
room than I normally podcast in.
Where do you normally podcast?
Just my main, like, I don't know, kitchen kind of area.
Oh, yeah, okay. I always assumed you podcast in that room.
Yeah, I moved up. Well, no, I don't know. I always sit in that
Oh.
room. It's kind of nice up here, but
Quick little test. Do you guys hear this? Perfect.
I can.
Okay, cool.
That's how I feel about your lack of context.
So wait, maybe I misunderstood. Do you just want context on Nerdtacular, or because I took it as a broad comment on anything? On
Well,
everything
it
I
is a
talk
broad
about?
comment when you're talking about things that are a thing that happened or something that you
Oh,
did.
sweet Lord.
Whatever, let's
Okay.
not get in on
I
that.
can give the context for Nerdtacular today at your request, but I'm not
Yes.
doing it as a policy going forward.
But it's something like you'll also mention names of people, but then you won't say who they are or what they do.
I rely on people's ability to use Google. I
No,
think.
like you can't do that to
But
people
I-
because you do that to me
been
all the
doing-
time. You'll draw some person's name. I'm like, I don't know why this person. I don't know
Can
why.
you imagine if you were listening to like stuff you should know and they just started randomly dropping names and being like, people will Google
They
those
do
names.
that.
No, they don't. They
Yes,
give context.
Look,
I listen to
this
that
isn't
show all the
stuff
time.
you should know. This isn't a program where anyone learns anything. It's a conversation.
It's one which I hope has basic good communication.
No,
skills.
but it's a conversation between the three of us.
Like, I'm
We're
both like,
debating.
no.
We're debating. I'm not
No,
presenting
I
a
won't.
thesis.
I won't let you understand anything I'm talking about. I'll just randomly talk to myself, and you'll be listening to it.
Because it's not that kind of a show. That's not the show
But
we
this
do.
isn't about a show. It's about how you should communicate with another human being when they don't know what you're talking about. That's
Well, I
what
assume if you really want clarification, you will ask. But you're saying I need to clarify on behalf of the listeners.
Just for a point, I hate throwing this around, but communications is my profession.
It's also
Fair-
my degree in university.
It's
Bo.
my
I listen to
profession
it.
too.
very
I
much
talk to
Mike's
people.
corner
I
on
literally
this.
talk to
Bo,
people
you're
every
making
day.
No sense.
What's that?
Okay. I'm very
Also-
much Mike's corner on this. Bo, you're making no sense.
You don't know about being withholding, about only giving enough to entice and not over
What also, I'll just point out something funny. If you were to listen back to very many intros where you talk about stuff that's in this realm, you'll hear me going like, "Who is that, Bo? Bo, can you say what that?"
Yeah,
was?"
I know, because
I
you're too lazy to use your fingers while we're on the show and Google something real quick for a small amount of
No,
content.
that's horrible. That
Where's the
would be-
throttle button on the internet? 'Cause I would be
The other option is to ask.
That's what he does.
I tried it, but you.
But you hate asking, and you like me to just
No, I
magically
do.
know
I was
what
just
you
saying
know
push
and
back,
don't know.
we talk
If
over
I
it.
did the opposite and over-explained everything, you'd be giving me shit right now for over-explaining everything.
Yeah, but
So I don't know.
there's,
Like, if I were
there's
to
a
tell my
sweet
story
spot,
about-
and you're way on one side of it. Let's just put
Yeah,
it down.
well,
I were telling
we'll put
Bo,
that
if I
down
were
to
telling my
personal
story-
idiosyncrasies.
If I were telling my story about riding the horse, I'd just quickly say, quick vacation. I was at my in-laws' house, went for a little trip down there, and they live on a farm. Now I have context to talk about riding a horse. Otherwise, it's completely out of left field. Like just riding a horse around my neighborhood. Like,
But you can do that. You
it took
can
2
do
seconds
that.
for me to give you context of
It
where
wasn't
that
the
occurred.
best example.
You need to
but,
stop telling me
I
to
get what-
talk how you want me to talk and
Oh,
saying the only way
no.
that you talk is the right way to talk. It's very condescending.
I'm telling you, Bo, you're not listening, and it's
I
just
am
a very-
listening. Don't tell me I'm not listening.
Part of
I
good
can hear
communication
you.
skills is listening.
I've heard
you
what
gotta
you
listen.
said.
Bo has
I,
neither the
I'm
oral
rejecting.
or the listening.
I am rejecting the suggestion. on a
Bo,
general
this
basis.
is why you'll never be a PM1.
Daredevil's a really good show.
That's probably true, but we're gonna chalk it to personal idiosyncrasies.
Okay,
just what
let's
you
go
have.
now.
It's like when you go to IKEA.
I'm like, wait, that word is like half correct.
huh?
There was a veiled insult in there.
Just would you start the show? Something
I'm enjoying this banter.
So is the chat room. Oh, can I talk about the chat room? We haven't started the show proper yet.
Oh,
They're saying fight, 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 fight. It's pretty hilarious.
right.
All right.
What's wrong with him?
This is the last time I can talk to you, chat room, because during the show it throws mic off, so we won't going to reference you any further.
And also, it's
Show.
impolite to the audio-only listeners.
Yeah.
No,
I like
the
how
audio
Bo doesn't
listeners
mind
love-
being
You know, on Core we
impolite.
talk about
Anyone.
chat room all the time. It's fun. People get it.
His policy is just
The-
like
My
pretend the hive
co-hosts
mind
are from the
exists.
previous century. They've only just arrived here. All right, let's get started on a show, Croft, and you're introing It is episode
Now that he's
195. And
sufficiently exasperated, we're good to go.
we're beginning the show in 5, 4.
Hello and welcome to the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast. My name is Crofton Steers, one of your 3 jovial hosts for this merriment that we do every few weeks. I am the coffee of this podcast, and with me, as always, are my 2 co-hosts. I'm talking about the Earl Grey tea of this podcast, Michael Hodgins. Michael, welcome.
No, I'm rich espresso, man.
Nope. Earl Grey tea, and the Red Bull gives you wings energy drink of this podcast. I'm talking about Bo Schwartz.
Hell
Bo.
yeah! Ride the brown wave. Ride the brown wave to energy land.
That sounds nasty. See, the thing is, Mike, just to get back to your Earl Grey thing, it doesn't just have to do with what you drink. It's got to be reflective of you as a person. And for me, you are definitely much more of an Earl Grey Downton Abbey watching, hipster.
Let's move on before I get.
Mike's like, oh, I want to kill him so much.
Where's
and
the
we've only just
problem
started.
on this computer?
I've primed Mike up real good prior to the show, so he's.
They're both
ready to
primed.
go.
Actually, I'm the only one that is unprimed. So because of that, I will sort of lead us on this auditory adventure. So, Bo, speaking of adventures, what have you done recently that is worth sharing?
Well, I got back from Nerdtacular. It's been a couple of weeks
What's
now.
Nerdtacular?
I was going to
What is
explain if you give me a
Nerdtacular?
chance. Okay, so Nerdtacular is a convention for people who are fans of the Frog Pants network of shows and part of this thing called the Frog Pants community, where they all get together in Salt Lake City and just hang out.
And Frog Pants is like it's a series of shows related to like video games and nerd culture. Am I correct?
It's basically, I mean, Scott Johnson runs Frog Pants. We've explained on the show before. He's been a guest on the show. So he hosts people in his home city to come hang out and share their love of podcasting, geeky stuff, nerdy things, you name it. And we just have a good time. They played board
How many
games.
people are we
had
talking
panels.
about?
1,000 or so, I want to say.
Cool.
I didn't get an exact number, but there were a lot of people in the auditorium.
You didn't? Bo, come on.
Didn't you have one of those little like clicker things? Where you go
Click,
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 click, click, click.
No.
Did you go around asking people if they were here
But
for
I
Good Bad
was
Bull?
amused at Crofton's reaction because there's a picture of me out there signing things, and you guys both found that really funny because you're like, why is he in a line to sign people's things? We know who he is.
So you mean you were like at an autograph table signing merch for other people? Because the other way I understand, if you were lining up at Comic-Con to meet someone and get stuff signed, that I get. But in this context, people were lining up for you, Bo Schwartz, to sign things. Am I correct?
That's right. I mean, it was a small thing.
I still don't
understand.
understand.
It's just the picture makes it look more, whatever the thing, romantic than it is. Romantic in the.
But I guess it
romance
is fair
sense.
to say Bo is a kind of celebrity, and especially in the realm of the Heroes of the Storm video game and the culture around it.
Yeah, I would say that, but I met a couple of people who listened to Good, Bad, or Bullshit and not Core. And actually, one of them, I'm going to say hello to them because he talked to me for a while. This is a guy named Philip. And Philip really enjoyed our show. He came up to me and he was like, hey, man, I really like your stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah? What
Can
hero
I
do you
get
play?
Crofton's autograph?
What hero do you play in Heroes of the Storm? He's like, no, I like Good, Bad, or Bullshit. That show's great, man.
Philip, a man of great taste.
Yeah, so I expected because Core is on the Frog Pants network of shows. The network created by Scott Johnson has all of Scott Johnson's creative podcasts on there. At Nerdtacular, where people go to Salt Lake City to meet up and celebrate their love of geekery and Frog Pants stuff and their friendships made through that community. That Good, Bad, or Bullshit wouldn't get a lot of play, but it was mentioned up on the card when I got introduced in the introduction section in the auditorium, or the ballroom as they were calling it. And this gentleman, Philip, said he liked the show, and I was like, "That's awesome!" That Crofton and Michael.
I just have this image of Bo being presented on stage, and they're like, "And now of core fame," and then everybody's like, "Woo!" And also good, bad, or bullshit. And then Philip is the one guy who gets up and is like, "Yay!" And Wicked Kitten in front, she's like, "Woo!" There's like 2 people, and everybody else. There's like 3 other guys who are like, "Boo!"
There were a
Get him
few.
off the stage.
There were a few
bunch
other
of
people who said
collectively
they.
shrugging.
There were a few
What-
other
what
people.
is it? Good, bad, or what?
Yeah, there were a few other people who actually who said they actually listened to the show as well. They weren't the hardcore fans that Wicked Kitten and Philip were. They weren't as passionate, but we enjoy their patronage. And I'm sure there might be at least one, if not more, new listeners, because I gave out our stickers to people to go post on things. We have good, bad, or
Sweet.
bullshit stickers, and you can post them on a thing. I told them to take photos and tag us, but nobody's done that. I think
We should reinvigorate that and say, just say it right now. Anyone who's out there listening, if you write into the show, give you your address, we will send you a sticker.
I
of
think
good,
we
bad,
have
or
to have a
bullshit.
competition. So we give people the stickers, and then we say you can win a weekend getaway with one of
But
your
isn't that the
favorite
competition?
hosts.
Just write to the show. It's pretty easy. Anyways, that's pretty awesome, Bo. It sounds like you had a great time. It sounds like a fun event, and pretty cool that you connected with a couple GBB listeners. I'm glad to hear that they are out there.
Yeah, and
I like to think that Scott Johnson is like, he's like, oh, okay, how can I make Bo? He's coming from so far. How can I make him feel comfortable? Oh, I know. I have this big wad of cash. I'll give it to a couple of randos on the street and tell them to go see Bo and say they're big fans of GBB. And then so Philip comes up to you and is like, oh, Bo, I'm a big fan of Good, Bad, or Bullshit. And you're like, really? What's your favorite episode? And there's like this super long, awkward pause. And then he's like, the one with the bullshit?
I was like, awesome. I like
to
that
the
one.
show.
Too.
He has opinions. And by the way, since we're talking about Philip so much, I will mention he does a little show of his own, and we're gonna give him a little plug.
Good to
It's
give a
called-
shout out.
It's called the Botch Podcast, and I haven't listened yet. I'm excited to try it out, but him and a bunch of his friends get blotto drunk and play Dungeons and Dragons, and then record it as a podcast. So that's the Botched Podcast.
Really interesting or a total disaster.
It sounds like it could be entertaining.
It's like, why not both?
Yes.
Why not both?
All right. So thank you, Philip. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, everyone who came up to me and said they liked the show. It was real encouraging about making me want to continue doing the show. That it wasn't all just core fans. It was good fans too.
We should recommit ourselves to trying to do this thing once a week. We were pretty consistent for a while, but summertime and life commitments, makes it
Well,
hard.
Mike had to take some time out to ride a horse.
Rode a horse. I'll save that story for another time because I feel like a random topic.
Before you do, I would flag to our listeners as well. Well, this is episode 195, and we're getting close to 200. And it would be nice to do something a little different or a little special. If they have any ideas, if there's anything they've ever wanted to hear from us on or to learn about or anything like that, let us know. Send us an email at goodbad.
Me.
Goodbadbull@gmail.com.
I have an idea. Bo could put together a trivia quiz for you and I because
Good
he does it for
Lord.
every other podcast on the internet, so he could do one
I
for
know.
ours.
I'm getting really tapped out. We can't talk about the. Well,
That's an idea. Like that could be a thing. I don't know. I'm just saying. Like I'm putting it out to people. We're coming up on 200, and I know it'll sneak up on us, and then we'll be like, "Geez, we got to do something." But I'd like to know if people have something that they want to see, that they let us know. So, all right. Without further ado, sorry, Mike. Let us go into the random topic
So
world.
Mike put his hat
Start
on.
your fancy machine.
He put on his toque for the audio listeners before going out, except the toque is very small. And it's throwing me off. Why is it so
could
small?
almost be a yarmulke,
Yeah,
but it's like
yeah.
a toddler toque. It
Oh,
happened
okay,
to be sitting-
that explains it. Go pull the thing then.
The topic today is digital currency.
Okay, so we're talking like Bitcoin, right?
Is it pretty much only Bitcoin? Is there other? There must be other stuff too, but I
Well,
mean, it's Bitcoin, right?
I
It's
think
it's funny. Well, like I mean, it depends how you want to quantify it. There's so many services where you put money in virtual wallets to buy stuff. Like I know for Sony and the PlayStation Store, that's how things work. Like you got to put money in, and for Nintendo, for a really long time, it was really annoying because like, things would be a certain value, and then you'd have to kind of like to have the amount of money in your virtual wallet, you'd have to put in like more money than
But
because they'd
yeah,
only sell it in chunks of 10 or whatever.
but that's different than. I mean, maybe I'm wrong on this, but because I'm only thinking of Bitcoin. I'm not thinking of um, there's you can make regular money virtual in many different ways. Uh,
PayPal.
yeah, but it's backed by a currency which is usually backed by a state, right? Like, so you can put your US dollars or Canadian dollars or Australian dollars or whatever into something online, whereas something like Bitcoin, I mean, I presumably you can buy it with American dollars, but it's that currency itself is sort of governed by something entirely different than like a central bank in a country, right?
So, but what's the topic on?
Digital currency.
Because like I think of when I hear digital currency, and I worked on it customer support for an online video game for a long time. It had its own currency, and that currency was even being sold on eBay. Like just as World of Warcraft gold is as well. I would consider that is digital currency
I
as
guess so.
well.
I mean, and yes, I'm not to agree, but not to disagree, but I feel like the difference maybe is that currency is actually not a currency. It's like a good.
A
Someone's
virtual
buying.
item.
it's like a
Yeah, like someone's.
certificate or
You
prompt.
can buy that stuff and use it for something else, but I think current and I feel like I don't know that much about this stuff. What I've heard about Bitcoin, maybe you guys know about this too, is that the whole way it works is something called blockchain technology. Have you heard of this? It's like software. So it's something to do with there's this giant ledger which records all transactions that Bitcoin does, and this ledger is like I think non-centralized, and the way people get Bitcoin is by mining Bitcoin, which is to say you're using computer power to update this ledger constantly because it requires a ton of computing power. So this ledger is not able to be tampered with because it's always updated. And so I think the idea is this currency is not able to be manipulated in the ways that some other currency can, and that it defies borders in the way that other currencies cannot. That's all I know about Bitcoin, and it could be wrong.
Well, I mean, it's because I think there's a uniqueness, there's a unique verifiable property to the various coins, but it's not backed by any centralized government.
No,
Essentially.
but I think what makes it work is this thing, this blockchain thing, and where it's essentially like you make a
Yeah.
transaction and it gets recorded on this ledger, which is I think a sort of a decentralized thing, which is from my understanding like it can't really be tampered with because it's decentralized. Again, I don't know the details, but
I think it has to do with the way that it's well, whatever. But I think I think you got all the points that I already knew. I think it has to do with the way that they're like essentially
I
found.
mean, and I guess
Because for the longest time in the early days of Bitcoin, you could obtain Bitcoin by discovering them. Like it wasn't like to manufacture more currency within that currency, you actually had to have a computer mine it. And
yeah, but mining it wasn't like you were doing a game. The mining it was sort of like providing computing power
right.
to update this blockchain, which is essentially a ledger that records all these transactions. So when you're mining Bitcoin, you're not doing anything other than devoting the computational power of your computer. You're essentially giving the system computer time that it needs to be constantly up to date. So by doing that, you're rewarded with Bitcoin.
Right.
So, okay, here's the thing. I know nothing about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I've just listened to you guys speak about it for about 5
I'm pretty
minutes.
sure we
I
don't
know
either.
even less than when I started.
I feel like I
Um,
know less too.
The thing is, and that's not to. I think it's testament to uh, how complicated this thing is, or the idea of digital currency. So in theory, a digital currency like Bitcoin, the advantages are somewhat what Mike was saying before. The idea of that one state government wouldn't have uniform control over sort of a worldwide currency, because right now we have some power currencies like the American dollar, the British pound, the yen and all that sort of stuff. They're all backed by select states, and the idea of like an international currency is sort of utopic to a certain extent, that's not backed by a state. And the idea is that, like, for that to function properly, there needs to be some sort of alternate way of supporting the currency other than the traditional state-backed way that we're used to. And so this whole block streaming change, whatever thingy, is just an alternate way to lift up another type of currency. Is that it? What are the other advantages of
Well, the
digital?
advantages are there's the increasing online financial transactions that we make. So we purchase a lot of goods and services online. Those all have paper trails, like your online banking, the transfers that happen between Walmart or Amazon to your bank are all there. Bitcoin is a way to transact online with the same efficacy and have no or little to no paper trail. I'm pretty sure that's correct. So Bitcoin often associated with underhanded things like if you wanted to pay a guy on Craigslist to ruin your neighbor's yard because you're feuding with them but don't want the paper trail to get back to you, you'd pay them in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is it, because it's sort of interesting, because like people often say we're entering the cashless society, and everything is plastic, right? And that's all recorded by various banks, companies, and probably governments. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But then you think about cash, and the interesting thing about cash is, like, you just go give it to someone, and then they give you a thing. That's it, right? No one's watching. That's what's neat about cash, and that's what governments don't like about cash, because it fuels the black market, right? This is maybe one of the negatives of the digital currency, or positives depending on your perspective. But that if Bitcoin can operate in the same way as cash, and my understanding is that, like, how it works, like, again, I don't know much about it, but like you said, I think paperless is kind of the key, but that it's also accurate, and that's because of this thing called blockchain. And I would encourage anyone to Google that, because I do not know enough about it. But
Well, I mean, illegal drug dealers use cash because they don't use bank accounts, because that stuff can be forensically traced, right? And I think Bitcoin is the online currency that can do that. So, Crofton, you're muted. That's why I'm talking. And
That's a killer point that I had legitimately not thought of, because I've noticed lately. Okay, so I realized the best way to get me to change my buying habits is make things easier. I remember Gabe Newell said about Steam and curbing PC software piracy, that, like, just make it easier to buy things legitimately than it is to pirate it. It's not necessarily a price thing as much as it's a convenience thing, right? And for me, with regards to payment, I never used a credit card. I hated credit cards. I got a credit card late in life. Now I'm using my credit card all the time for very small payments, because they've instituted the tap technology, which is just ridiculously, like, instead of putting my Interac card in, my debit card, which was another big life change from many years ago, where I was like, oh, I can just put this card in, put in the 4-digit code, and then boom. Now it's like click, tap, tap, tap. It's
I'm
so fast.
so mad when I have to put my code in.
So yeah, mad. No, I'm buying $2 coffees on tap. I'm doing like, it's really because there's no down, as long as I pay my credit card every month, there's no downside for using it. The convenience is really high. And so when you guys are talking about a post like currency world, like I never have cash anymore or rarely have cash. And when I use cash, I often find the whole process stupid because it's way harder than tapping. It's like here's a $20 bill for my $2 coffee. Okay, open up the cash. I'm waiting. You're taking out all the change. I put the money in my wallet. I put the coins in the little pouch. Like it doesn't sound like much, but when you can just go tap and walk away, I mean, it is annoying. So I'm not using regular currency anymore, but that's because I'm on the grid. I work a 9 to 5 job. I don't care about like my money. The government can see I bought a $2 coffee at Starbucks. Big deal. I don't care.
Well, they know
but
what
if I
your
wanted to get
routine is.
off the grid on at an electronic level, like more than just giving people briefcases of money and saying, "Hey, Donald Jr., here, we're not colluding. Have this briefcase of money." Like there's now a digital alternative, and that would be, I guess, Bitcoin. So for me, it seems like it has negative connotations because it would be used primarily by people that don't want to be traced, which seems
well, and it is, because if you think of these recent like hacks, I can't remember WannaCry, and there was another one like that, and it's like they're always wanting payment in Bitcoin because it's like
You're
that's exactly
talking about ransomware, where they
ransomware, and
encrypt
it's like
your data on your computer and then they hold it for ransom. I'm just
yeah
so that everyone knows what that is.
No, that's good context, and but they want often the payment because these are international actors, that are doing this stuff usually from outside, and you have some Bitcoin there, and then it's just like can't be traced. It's just like digital cash. It is funny though because it's like a double-edged thing in that I'm like, I don't, there's something that irks me about like when Crawford was talking about his tap, and I'm the same way. I use a tap, and it's like super convenient, but you have to realize that like it's like every single thing I do is recorded, and that definitely irritates me. Like recently, I had I think it was a Twitter feed. I had a McDonald's ad. Okay, I have not been to McDonald's in years, but I went this past week twice because I was on a road trip, and that's usually the only time I'll go to McDonald's. It had been years, and now I'm getting an ad on my phone. I'm like, "Fuck you!" is what I was saying. Like the internet. I'm like, "Fuck you, internet." You're watching me and I don't like it, and I mean, should it annoy me? I don't know, but it does, and I just feel like it's that whole interconnected thing. Whereas if I had paid cash at McDonald's for my shitty Big Mac, I wouldn't be getting these ads, and it wouldn't be recorded somewhere. It would be anonymously in the way that cash flows. And I think that's kind of like how digital currencies are, international digital currencies are supposed to work, in that the cash still flows, but it's not necessarily this like everyone has a record. Because keep in mind that that's valuable. Like if you're a credit card company, they don't just make money off of the interest that the people who don't pay the thing down. They absolutely do not. They make tons of money off of data and sales trends. So every time you're like, tapping your card, that's valuable analytics for them. That's big data, and everyone wants big data, and you can tell a lot from that, trends and whatever. And I don't know why. Maybe that's good. That's the thing. Maybe that's great.
But it
kind of bugs me too.
It does, and we did that episode on big data, and I do remember it. And like part of me is like, well, there's so much data out there that like at one point they don't know how to use it all, but they're getting better and better at harnessing and getting back to the convenience thing. And I don't want to get sidetracked on this, but like Starbucks has this app right now. You download the app and you can link it to like the store downstairs in your building, and you can order a coffee remotely and then go down, instead of queuing up, it'll just be ready for you or whatever, and then you can instantly pay for it on your phone. So what they're doing is they're giving you all this convenience through the app, and then you take advantage of that convenience, but then that data is all is all recorded. And Mike, honestly, like I go to McDonald's fairly often, and for sure that same shit is happening to me, but I didn't notice it until you told me it, and now I'm like, now I'm gonna see it. Now I'm gonna look at my stuff and be like, oh shit, there are McDonald's ads, and that's where they that's where they stem from. But but for me, and I get the idea for like when you hear these stories like the Edward Snowden affair, and I'm a big advocate for like governments that are definitely not all squeaky clean, and having whistleblowers and giving them the tools or the capabilities necessary to do that is really important. And having like maybe anonymous sources of digital currency is one of those ways. That's really seems positive, like, but at the same time they're a small minority of probably the people that are using it, that I guarantee you that there's a lot more shady type of characters that are using it than necessarily, heroic people protecting their data,
But
Yeah,
I think we just take the conversation though by just talking about, well, it's just for shady people with nothing to hide don't have to have it, but privacy is an important right that, at least in what would you call it, the democratic states, or the new world, or like, privacy is very important in a government system where we have individual liberties. Like, I feel like that's a right that's being impugned upon at the altar of convenience, right? So it's like, we make things more convenient, and by the way, we're gonna track everything. And it's like, I shouldn't even have to have a reason for people to not just know all my shit all the time. Like, the fact that the internet knows my browsing habits, it provides me with convenient services, but I consented, I'm sure, at some point by agreeing to terms of service and using the thing, but I never explicitly made that decision. And the same is true, especially with forms of payment. Money just all of a sudden is super trackable now. Like, your personal life, someone can just look at all of your financial transactions and figure out a lot about you that you more than you even know yourself. You probably think you only have Chinese food once a week, but you're eating it 4 times a week. So we know this person lies to himself. I don't know.
Yeah, but also it's like
fair.
something like a digital currency, and I think what's interesting about it, especially going like as a kind of futuristic thinking thing about what is currency going to look like in 50 years, and probably it'll be some kind of digital currency is what I sort of expect. And I know certainly, Bo, you've expressed this kind of like the dislike of, I think you have, I kind of feel this way, the dislike of borders and states, and that you have all these invisible lines drawn around the world which impede freedom of movement and this kind of thing. And money is also a way that is controlled, again, by, like, you go to a different country, then you land in an airport and you go to the money change place, right, and you change your money into whatever currency is a local currency, and you pay an exchange on that, and someone makes money on that transaction, right? There's a ton of money in the, like, currency change game, and the values of those currencies are fluctuating all the time. And I mean, it like, people make millions of dollars just like moving money back and forth across borders. It seems so silly, and I feel like if we're ever going to get to a post-state world where there's just like, just a global world where we stop having all these lines in the sand, there's going to need to be, like, how is currency going to work? It can't just be like the US dollar becomes the only, it doesn't work that way. Like, there's going to need to be some kind of replacement, and the only one that's likely viable is something like, aside from something like gold, which there probably isn't enough of, is something like digital currency, something that is independent of, frankly, the whims of the state. It's like, because there is, as Donald Trump is always saying, China is manipulating their currency, right? And the thing is, states can do stuff like that. Like, you can enact policies which try to devalue your currency to then gain an export or import advantage, and that's like, they can be played with. But the digital currency, at least as I understand it through Bitcoin, and probably as new ones emerge, are the fact that those things should be immune from that type of manipulation. There shouldn't be state actors able to say, like, let's do this thing and we'll change the rate of that currency. And again, the currency, it only makes sense in relative to other currencies, like the value versus the US dollar or whatever. But if you just had one digital currency that was accepted worldwide, it would have deep changes. It would be very
I get nervous whenever talking about like I don't want to say harmonize. Is it hegemonization? Like the idea of like everything being
Homogenization.
Homogenizing.
homogenization, like the milk. Thank you. Everything being drawn into one, be it countries all merged into one or currencies all merged into one, and like there's lots of reasons from that, and that's like when you see it talks in science fiction and you talk about like these futures where everything is bland vanilla or like losing the flavors of diversity. uh, I feel like even if we end up with one major currency and it eventually replaces all the other currencies, like in all my favorite science fiction video games, where I'm like, oh, intergalactic credits, oh, that's all it is. But like at one point we've talked about artificial intelligence. We always talk about how we keep giving our future AI overlords more ways to screw us. Well, it feels like one set of currency would totally be that. The other thing too is like the currency, as we've seen throughout the world, has has crashed, spiked, massive inflation, and all that. And yes, there are external factors, and there are factors that are built into the design of Bitcoin that is to protect against these sort of things. But like if we're down to one currency and it gets hacked, screwed up in any way, shape, or form, it feels like that would be a bad thing for people in general. Like putting all our eggs into one basket, no matter how airtight we think that basket is going to be, seems like a bad idea.
I just still feel like we wouldn't, even with universal currency, we wouldn't get away from local economy, just because the way humans.
Well, there'd still be local, but economies, like keep in mind that economies and even markets are different than currency, right? Currency. Like what you can buy with your currency will still vary based on market demands. So there'll still be those types of variations will occur. Currency, I don't think, can prevent against that. They're sort of independent. But again, your point about the one currency, I find an interesting one. But also made me think like gold was basically at some point was like universal income or a universal type of wealth. And that's what's kind of interesting about thinking about something like gold is if you just decide money's based on gold, all of a sudden it has this universality. And it was based on gold. At least most countries had a gold standard, and that was eliminated famously in the U.S. under Nixon. I don't know kind of where else it went. And that's caused a lot of problems as well. It made opportunity, but it also made problems like inflations and spike wacky markets that are going up and down. A lot of that has to do with the fact that now money is just free floating. There's nothing to bind it to. And my understanding of Bitcoin is that, and again, there might be new ones that emerge after Bitcoin, but I heard that with Bitcoin, there's a limited amount. It hasn't all been mined yet, but apparently like it's finite. Like you cannot keep making, and that is, I think, part of the quotient. Like you can't just make it forever because again, that leads to inflation, right? So there's a certain amount, and I think it's a known amount, and it's not all out yet because the idea is it takes a long time to mine it, and that being that you have the computing power.
Yeah. But you're saying mine it, but
that's just a term they use.
I know it is. It's virtual, but it's a virtual construct. The gold standard was based on an actual item, which is gold, and like you could hold it in your hand. You couldn't magically, despite what alchemists were trying to do, you couldn't magically create more gold. But technically, while I get how it's all designed so that there's a limited amount and you mine and all that sort of stuff. When you create a digital currency, it is at the whims of, computer software design, all that sort of thing that can be altered and can be changed, even if it seems like an impossibility right now. Sorry.
But not to take it to like a philosophical level, but keep like all currency is just all it is trust. That's all it is. Even gold. It's like you'd be like, oh, I have gold. Gold's worth a lot of money. It's like, is it? It's a yellow metal. Why is it worth a lot? Because we all agree it is, and we trust that if I give you some, you also value it. And it's how all money works. If I give you a U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar, we have trust in the fact that it's worth something to someone else. It's all trust. As soon as that trust fades away, the currency collapses.
But see,
And
the whole point about currency is that in the gold standard is that you can, if you have a printer, like and the what are they called there anyway, that allow you to print currency,
Mint.
you can just print it as all day long, just print yourself out more money. But the thing is, you devalue the money, and the money is to be backed by by gold. So you can't necessarily create more gold. But if the digital currency is not backed by anything but digital constructs that you mine or whatever, then there's a chance that at any given point that whole thing can be thrown out of whack.
Yeah.
Where when something is based on a real world item, it won't be.
I think the word you're looking for is deprecated. I think that like Bitcoin right now is perceived to have value, but I did a quick little search because I was like, it's not just Bitcoin. I just wanted to find out, and there's actually looks like 24 or so on Wikipedia. There's a list of 24 or so different types of coins, including the well-named pot coin. Potcoin being mined as we speak. Some of them as new as this year. Ubic is a new one. Like new blockchains for new types. So maybe 10 years from now,
Bitcoin ever
Bitcoin
crash
is like
or anything?
What's that?
Like did any of these, like, because I remember reading like about Bitcoin being the hotness, and then all of a sudden it wasn't as much anymore.
Bitcoin was the first time, I believe it was the pioneering blockchain that worked and was perceived to hold value. So prior to this, there wasn't a digital currency in 2009 or whatever. So it's like held, I guess, as the gold standard of digital currency, but
being that it's based on a software, it will evolve and probably get better, and that's probably why there's these new ones. I mean, Crofton, you're right. I think in that its value has fluctuated, but what's interesting about that is that value is still measured against, say, U.S. dollars or in exchange, and it's one of those things where it's like if you got everyone onto a different currency where you then suddenly didn't care about, like, I don't know, rupees or pesos or anything else, it all was valueless, then that value would only be based on what you could exchange for that Bitcoin, not other currencies. Because yes, it did. I remember at one point it was worth like all this. You could sell it for tons of U.S. dollars or whatever, and that went way up and down. Apparently, it was like quite up and down. It was all over the map. But people just held on to Bitcoin because they were like, who cares about that? That's going to go all over the place, but you can still buy stuff with Bitcoin. And ultimately, that's where its value is. If you're a money trader, that's just a whole different kind of kettle of fish.
Yeah.
But one thing is, like, I've come down sort of negatively on this, but like the idea of advancing ourselves in any sorts of technologies, be they just stuff like artificial intelligence that I mentioned earlier, or they be stuff like improvement in the way that we manage currency. I think that's a valid pursuit. It makes me nervous, and when I see a lot of this stuff, but already a lot of my expenditures have moved into the digital economy, which we may draw as a topic sometime, but like, I buy like everything from music, games, television shows, movies, all that sort of stuff has moved away. I've moved away from brick and mortar towards the digital economy. And if I'm willing to do that, and like I'm going in these online stores and seeing the American price and then switching it to the Canadian price, realizing how much I'm getting reamed, and being frustrated about that. So like improvements to that process, like if everybody is going online, if we're all becoming the alpha or the beta of the hive mind, then yeah, it would make sense that we have a currency that match that. I just get nervous a little bit when I think about like the homogenization of anything, and that's, to me, it's like I get there's a bunch of other ones than Bitcoin.
I mean,
and like,
yeah. I agree, and we're not going to homogeneity necessarily because there might be various types of things, but I'm balancing this against it. I certainly don't know everything about money, but it doesn't know, like, the fact that money is not backed against gold anymore really makes it a very interesting and weird thing. And you talk about feeling iffy about it going online, but the fact that or becoming a digital currency and putting your trust in that. But at the moment, it's like our governments literally, as you're saying, print money. They do it all the time. They make money, and that's a weird and interesting thing. And that's essentially all based on a growth paradigm, one which is unsustainable. But no one, certainly no mainstream politician or government on the planet has any idea how to grapple with, but it needs to be grappled with. And so it's like if all you're doing is printing money based on the expectation that your economy, your GDP is going to grow, and therefore the trust in the currency that's backed by your state is going to still have value. That's what it's all based on. That must change, and it will at some point. And I think that something like a Bitcoin, where there is a finite amount, and like it's quite high, and it comes out over time. A finite amount is probably some kind of way to transition to a steady state economy, which will have to happen at some point, unless we just want to destroy the world, which is if you're listening to this show before, that's where we're going, at least according to me, probably. But the only way to not do that is to try to change, and something like a digital currency, I think, is one of the tools that will probably allow us to move towards a new kind of economy. And again, it could be that some digital currencies are maybe just the same. They just keep creating new forever and are based on an endless growth paradigm, which is problematic in the same way. But I think that there are some which understand that and say, well, that's why there can only be a finite amount, just like there is only so much gold. But right now, gold is just a commodity now. But you just buy it and trade it. It's just a thing. But it used to be the basis of currency, and now it's just like trust. Like we all trust that this Ponzi scheme, which is the economy, will never fail. But they always fail. It's just that it's so big that it takes a long time. Anyways, I mean, I don't know tons about this stuff, but I feel like I'm getting close to a verdict. What about?
It sounded very verdict-like. I think I've gotten all I can muster out of my understanding of it, because I feel like it's money. It's available online. It's evidently not traceable, although there's a ledger that is mined to ensure the authenticity of transactions. But for the most part, transactions are anonymous. That's about all I got. I've never owned any Bitcoin.
I would say just two last things before rolling into verdicts, and they're related to this topic in terms of what it is now and what it is going to be, or what it will be in the future. Because on this show before, we've drawn topics that are purely science fiction, such as like the hive mind. And then we've drawn topics, and I've mentioned a couple of times, like artificial intelligence, in which there is a level of artificial intelligence that exists now, but then there's our hopes and fears of where it may be in the future. And I think positively about the concept of this, and then we talk about some of the concerns of it in its current construct, and some of the benefits, like the fact that it would be not traceable and all this, that it's not backed by any particular government. But what if in the future digital currency is only backed by certain governments? We don't know. Maybe at one point that happens. Maybe at one point Bitcoin, and the way it's generated, is taken over entirely by the American government, and it becomes the American digital currency that the world uses. And then it's all hypotheticals, but it's like, soon as you put something into the digital realm, those fears, are there. And like, it feels kind of like Bitcoin is a prototype right now in many ways, and the other digital currencies, but I almost feel more positive about it now than I do when I think about like all the possibilities that could stem from digital currency. So it's kind of a complicated topic in that regard, because there's the now and there's the possible, and the idea of creating something that's in the digital space for currency. It seems like that would be a positive thing, but then could have all sorts of negative outcomes. So it's very messy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so does that mean you're ready for verdicts?
Yep.
I love you, Crofton. That was great. All right, so let's bring in the farm animals and deliver the verdict. So I'm gonna go.
I'll go
first.
I'll go
You
first.
gotta go first. Yeah, because
I'll
All
go
right,
first.
all right,
I
all right,
hosted
all
the
right.
show. Plus, I pretty much was halfway there already. So I'll just lead off by saying that digital currency for me is a pile of bullshit, and I will for sure own this as somewhat of a cop-out verdict, and. And one of the reasons is based on what I had just said about where it's going, what it could be, and what it is now. I feel positive actually about Bitcoin, even though I have some sort of concerns with regards to maybe the type of people that would not want to be traced. But that's not necessarily really tied into what it is. And I feel positive about the idea of bringing currency into the digital economy in such a way that we're already moving to that economy or have moved there. And it just makes sense that the actual currency we used to pay for these things follow us. I feel positive about that. And honestly, I can see lots of positive outcomes for it. But I also, maybe cynically, maybe pessimistically, just feel that there's a lot of concerns that I could see coming out of this. There's concerns that I have now. I mentioned about the type of people that use it, or the constant desire for anonymity. I mentioned the homogenization of the world. I mentioned sort of just the unknowns in terms of like maybe a state taking over it at one point, and it providing even more power to these superpowers. These are all concerns that are not necessarily based in anything. It's just based on a science fiction concept, which this is where this partly resides. So for all those messy reasons, I'm saying that it's bullshit.
Okay. All right. I'll go next. I'll let Mike have the last word. He looks like he's drawing in all of the ideas for a Dragon Ball Z level. We're gonna get a big verdict here. All right.
Be the most boring Dragon Ball Z finisher of all time. Be like, I will talk about digital currency. Ah!
All right, so digital currencies. I think it's pretty cool. I like the idea. Definitely a lot of what Mike said about the idea that there's a sense of unification in terms of our growing awareness of global issues and our global identity. Makes sense to have one currency that we don't have to have all these games that we play around. I think it would solve a lot of problems. I agree. So I like that the idea that digital currency can in fact solve it, where gold standard or government backed whatever's don't. So that part I like. And the other thing too, I just briefly mentioned is that figuring out a way to do digital currency would also be helpful in the hive mind. If we do need currency in the hive mind, we can use biomath to figure out a bio blockchain and also conduct transactions there. So that's a side benefit, which I'm giving extra points for. I won't belabor it because we had a whole episode about hive mind, but it is a good thing. I don't know. I haven't used it though. It's hard for me to almost give a verdict when I haven't had the firsthand experience of the digital currency. But I think it's cool, and I'm not going to fault it for enabling underhanded transactions because those would be handled without Bitcoin. So unless it's really making it easier, but I think we just need better policing. It's kind of the Wild West for this currency. I think in the long game, we can combat that kind of stuff. So I'm going to say digital currencies are good. I like them.
I've been I don't really know what to think about this, but
admit you were swayed a bit by my hive mind argument.
No, not from that one. And also I'm like, why would they use biotechnology or whatever? Wouldn't they just use regular digital tech? It's a hive mind, it's on a computer, whatever. Okay. So yeah, being that this thing is kind of in its infancy, not been around long, it's like where it's gonna go. Is Bitcoin gonna fizzle out? Probably, and it'll be replaced by something else. So it's a little bit of a hypothetical, as Crofton was talking about. But I think there's so many problems with non-digital currency, which is state-backed currency. There's a lot of problems there, and I think they're big problems, probably bigger than we give sort of due thought to. And I think that they're problems that need to be grappled with. And again, I really feel like states don't know how to. All they do is play with interest rates and just print more money, or try to withhold doing that based on how the economy is doing. And then thinking of the current thing, it's like with Bitcoin or something like that. A currency is only as good as what it could buy. And Bo was saying, I haven't used it, and that's an interesting point because it's like if someone's like, "Here's a bunch of Bitcoin," I'd be like, I wouldn't even know how to use it right now. I'd be like, okay, so I want to buy some milk at the store. How do I go there? I'm like, I got some Bitcoin. They'll be like, yeah, okay. Do you have any dollars? And I'd be like, no. And then they're like, okay, no milk for you. And I'd be like, this stuff is useless. So that's where we're at now. So we're in like a transition phase. I think you can buy certain things, and you can't buy others. The whole black market argument is one that I think sort of moot. It's interesting, but that's not how you combat crime, as far as I'm concerned. Like we need to control all currency to a minute degree. That's what will get rid of crime. Like that's not what's gonna get rid of crime. And like cash is fine, and like black market operates in cash, can operate in different things. It can also operate under just state-backed currency. It's like whatever. It's like a conflated issues there. I don't know. I think it's good. I think good is what I'm going to say for digital currency. I'm a bit befuddled on that verdict because I think it's like needs more development, but I think it's probably the step that needs to be taken. So yeah, I'm just gonna sit on that. And let's see what happens.
I like the idea that the mafia may be coming up with mafia coin or something like that, or cartel coin. The cartels.
Well, what's also funny is that we like a lot of these other digital coins. We didn't really get into this, and I think maybe one of you guys mentioned it, but like local economies, small economies, they often have their own little currencies, and oftentimes they're digital types. It's like. There's a ton of these little micro things that happen, but I think if there was some universal,
you're never going to completely get rid of Canadian Tire money. And for listeners in America who don't know what Canadian Tire is, it's a home hardware store where when you buy things, you get a little bit of their own Canadian Tire money that you can spend only on products. And
they just made new stuff, and it looks even it looks more like real money now.
There's new Canadian Tire money now?
Yeah, I just got some the other day. 10 cents, baby.
10-cent bill. It's a bill, right?
They're like, don't spend it all in one place. Just so you know, you can only spend it at Canadian Tire.
If you want to tell us about your opinions with regards to digital currency, maybe how informed you feel following this episode, maybe how confused you feel, please let us know. goodbadbull@gmail.com is the email address. We also would love to hear from you on Twitter @goodbadbull. goodbadbull.com is the website. All our archives of 194 other episodes are there. We're steamrolling to 200, as I mentioned earlier. If you want to let us know what you want to see out of 200, please reach out. We got a facebook.com/goodbadbull. We live stream on Twitch you should go on twitch.tv/goodbadbull. We're there as well. And of course, you can donate to us on Patreon if you are so tempted, and that's patreon.com again with the Good Bad Bull. We'd like to thank our Patreon supporters. They are great. We love them. And we would love to hear from them as well, what you guys think, both about this and about episode 200. So, of course, as I am prone to saying, we are all individuals of an individual nature. And with me are two such individuals. Bo, where can people reach you on the internet?
They can find me at Bo Schwartz. And I just want to quickly say, to reiterate the thank yous, we paid for our server costs this year, and we didn't have to shell out any money. So thank you, Patreon supporters.
Amazing. And we made it, guys. And Mike, of course, if people want to hear your Earl Grey views, where can they find you?
At the local tea house, round 4, I guess. And I'm sort of on Twitter at ML Hodgins, but yeah.
Complaining about why he doesn't get notifications.
No, I just don't. Man, whatever.
He wouldn't have gotten those. He wouldn't have gotten those.
What?
I just want to stick up for Mike. He wouldn't have gotten any notifications because we didn't include him. It's our bad.
We never
Left out
intended.
again.
We would, but if you want to know what we're talking about, man, you should follow us on Twitter because we talk back and forth. I'm at Croft and Steers, so that's a good start. Apologies again to our listeners. Our lives are really busy, so we've been recording slightly less often, but we are very committed to doing so. And thank you for those who have reached out to be.
It sounded like we're committed to recording less often. We're sorry about
Well, we
recording
sort of
less
are
often. We're
at this
committed
point.
to doing so.
I mean, I tell you, if you want to throw more Patreon money at us, maybe we can quit our jobs and do this full time.
Sure,
We're only about 1 million Patreons away from doing that. So we're getting there bit by bit, folks. It's funny because like when this topic came out, this is one of those ones where I was like letting you guys talk a bunch at the beginning, and I'm like, come on, I have no idea anything about this, and I'm like, oh, you know what, maybe it's like the money in Warcraft. I'm like, okay, that I can talk about, like, buying and selling. And then Mike's like, nope, it's definitely not that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh
Pretty sure
shit,
it's not that.
I'm totally screwed.
It's not like you're like Buckazoids. I know what a Buckazoid is.
Space Quest, baby. And then you guys are going back and forth, and then it might you're talking about what was the algorithm, the supply chain or whatever,
Blockchain.
and I was like, this is not helping me in any way.
Well, it's not really helping me. I just know that's what it's called, blockchain.
Oh no, it's good. It's good. That's just a fact.
Some people, here's a little tidbit, think that the whole economy, that's a lot, will all be blockchain based at some point.
See,
I don't,
and just like a big deal, but I don't know what that means.
Let me provide context also to that. I don't know what that means. I've heard it. I'm just gonna provide that context. Don't know what it means. Blockchain. Google it.
That feels like somebody on the news, one of those talking heads would be like, look, just so you know, the whole economy is going to be blockchained by 2017. And you'd be like, what does that mean? I'm not sure. I'm just going to pretend to know, though, because this guy sounds like he knows.
Well, that's my sort of feeling about all economists. They go on there and talk about stuff, and I wish they would finish all their statements with they're like, well, and the U.S. dollar's down a little bit on housing starts are slow, and so next quarter we should see slight growth, but a little bit. Also, I don't really know anything about what I'm talking about right now. And that's, I think, the kind of the reality of economists. They pretend to know, but they don't really know. They don't. The
that makes me
science,
feel better because I definitely don't know.
Yeah, I also don't.
I don't know.
I know Bo don't know.
Isn't economics like a made-up science? Is it like
the dismal science? Yeah, it is. The worst part about it is they try to use math in it to try to make it seem like a real science. So high-level economics has mathematics that you can't understand, or I'm saying I can't understand, none of us would be able to understand. It's really high-level math. But it's so clearly stupid because it's all based on assumptions about things like behavior. It's like humans behave like that. Let's give it a number. It's like, okay, that's a flawed premise. Go ahead.
Here's the first mark against it. Even in Wikipedia, economics is a social science. Just stop the rest of the definition. Science. I was like, what? Everyone knows social sciences are.
I've also heard the term, which I quite like, is that they say economics uses mathiness to give it credibility. They're like, it's a social science, but it's mathy. And then everyone's like, oh, math. It must be real and legitimate then.
I like how it got escalating and shitting on things. Like Mike's like, economics is so stupid, and then Bo's like, you know what? It's a social science, and social sciences are really stupid in general. And then I just see me snowballing and being like, yeah, you know what? Science, super stupid. And
but not to shit on social science, but here I go. It's like lately they've kind of almost proven that social science is stupid, because there was this noted thing where some people got together and said, okay, there's all these social science journal articles, and we're talking psychology and a lot of things in the psychology realm and other social science stuff with all these studies, and then they took 100 and tried to replicate results at random, and it was almost none were replicable. And that's like your pretty much basis point for being like, this is probably just some anecdotal shit you found at once and is not telling about anything that's real.
It's got nothing
And
to do with the scientific
there's
method.
the whole social science paradigm for like being a science is like on shaky ground right now because of stuff like that.
But that's all social science, is that they can't replicate things, but they still
But
study.
hard science you can. Like if you look at
No,
atoms
I
and get
know.
them to
That's
do
what I
things, they
mean.
will always
Science
do
is
them.
when you find a law in whatever scientific field, it's replicable. Your experiment is replicable.
Yeah.
Things aren't human behavior is very random.
But
Exactly.
But archaeology is a social science. Wouldn't that be like something? That's
Well,
like...
anthropology for sure is.
No, archaeology is too.
You might call it, but still, it's all full of assumptions too. Like people dig up stuff and then extrapolate from the like, okay, here's a dish I found, and now sometimes the extrapolations are a little bit far
Mike,
field.
do not question Indiana Jones. You questioned a lot today.
You said archaeology, but I think you mean anthropology.
No, I know the difference. I'm not
because
an idiot.
paleontology is a hard science.
Okay, well, in Wikipedia, if you search social science, just one of the first one that comes up is archaeology. So
Well, yeah, because it's the studies of cultures which don't exist anymore through digging up old dishes.
Yeah, so
It's
so
funny
the
'cause it's mostly
determinations
dishes.
the determinations made can't be replicated because we can't replicate history. If we could actually replay history in its exactitude, we could make like positive, undisputable assertions that are replicable by other people.
Yeah,
And that's where the whole
exactly,
social science business
exactly
comes
what Bo
from.
said. Like it's just
not
like
real
you found
science.
some dishes. Okay, that's great. Let's look at them. It doesn't tell you anything that you can verify.
I guess I just didn't have the proper context.
Anyways, Crofton, now you can tell everyone you know at work that social science is a pile of bullshit. Mike told you so.
That's
I'm sure there's a couple of people where you work with social science degrees that you're gonna insult.
Yeah.
I know, and I know Jesse has a social science degree. Don't tell her I said it was stupid.
Yeah.
Also,
Don't
for the
worry,
record-
she'll hear when she listens to the show. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
To be fair, I think our show falls under social science too. So
What?
you are what
No,
you eat.
this show is hard science.
I always considered it the performing arts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's better actually. By the way, did you like my little Okay, we're gonna wrap up the show, but before I turn off the live stream, I just want to call attention to Crofton noticed it when you didn't explain what ransomware was to our listeners after that.
You gave
speech,
context. I
after that
thought it was
speech you gave
actually
me.
useful.
Yeah, but I had to ask you. I shouldn't have to ask you.
No, but
Because
the thing is,
You just
I like
launched
how you
into the
guys-
explanation of this
you guys make-
technical thing, and I didn't know what it was.
But it's funny though. But it was like you did know what it was, and you did provide context.
Yeah,
and it actually was pretty helpful.
Yeah, I know.
I know, but it was still a burn and awesome.
Yeah, whatever. I won't take any credit.
In the
away from
context of what transpired today, it was just like, oh
If
man.
it wasn't for his dumb smile, and also the fact that we had that conversation in the episode,
Yeah. It was just funny. It was just
it
was a good like a Crofton stuck on.
He's frozen in midair.
Oh, there he's
Me?
back.
There,
Yeah.
he's back now. Yeah, you
You
froze.
said a
for
whole
bit.
bunch of stuff and we missed all of it. I'm sorry. You froze.
what? I heard everything.
Hey, we did an episode. Congratulations to us.
Yeah, and congratulations to the people who watched. Tom
See you-
DeGosa, Wicked,
See you guys in 6 weeks.
Wicked
You
Kitten.
like how I kept outreaching about episode 200? Now we'll see all the feedback roll in. I'm just kidding. Nobody will send us any.
We might get there by the new year.
I think the thing about our show is that we do such a phenomenal job on the show that people feel maybe they can't really add to it, or maybe we don't give enough room for them to interact or add to it. Because we have, I mean, Monica, you're here every week, and you never written us an email or have a fun question. We need somebody
Whoa,
to write
come
us
on,
in.
Way to put Monica on the spot.
Yeah, no
I
kidding.
also though I
Also
still feel
name
bad about this,
dropping.
but there was one guy, I can't remember his name, who was quite interactive for the show, and he sent us like a video message on Facebook, and then I feel like I was gonna say Bo ignored it, but I guess it's all of us because I feel like he's sort of the master of the show. So
Was
Bo
it the guy who sent us his penis?
It was
thesis?
about guns,
Oh no.
and I thought he put thought into it, and I thought it was good
Oh no,
feedback.
the video guy who put the video blog. Yeah, I guess we just never. I
Yeah.
think we disqualified it because it was on Facebook and it wasn't.
Yeah, we were sort of not
The,
clear
social,
on
the
what the deal
social
was with
pact
Facebook.
of putting content that people post on Facebook comments to appear on the show is not one that we explicitly ever made. and I'm
Yeah, though I mean, sometimes we've mentioned, we're on because we're kind of on Facebook. I'm not, for the record, but the show is. Anyways, and I'm like, so that guy probably was like, I'll never listen again, because I thought he had some interesting, he listened and he had some good points. Always good to hear other people's
I'm
points.
sure we're still on his subscription list. Actually, let me
Hope
just
so.
take a quick look here.
You're on my subscription list. Okay,
Oh
guys,
my
I
god,
gotta.
we cracked. Yeah, we hit some new highs. All right. Thank you so much, live stream listeners, for watching the show. We're out. Go watch Azeroth Roundtable because my friend John Jagger's on. I think that stream's going to kick up soon. So if you're looking for another podcast to watch, live stream, do that. All right.
You just a little caveat that it's about World of Warcraft. So
It's
if
a
you don't play
podcast
that
about World
or
of
like
Warcraft,
that,
and it
then you might
features
not want to watch that
John
show.
Jagger and Ben Bumhofer, who are friends and podcasters. And it's a pretty informal show, so there's not much. If you just like stories about Taco Bell, go listen to that show.
Maybe they'll talk about the gold in World of Warcraft,
Well, that
and it'll
sometimes
be
does
like
come up, actually.
a through line.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the John Jagger's? What's the other guy's name?
Ben Bumhofer.
Oh, that's
All right.
unfortunate.
It's a good show, everyone. Have a good night.